Welcome to the ulead podcast, brought to you by the Council for School Leadership of the Alberta Teachers Association.
Cale Birk, great to talk to you today. Really excited to have you come into ulead this year. Although we know each other quite well, maybe some people don't know who you are. I was wondering if we maybe just talk a little bit about yourself, give some people a little bit of a biography, and tell us about yourself.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, and I'm super excited to come to ulead. And I know just prior to this, we've been chatting a bit, but it's just truly to me one of the premier leadership conferences that I've been to, and I've been going for years. So to be able to come back and stand out front is pretty exciting for me. So, interestingly, my background is I still feel like I'm a school leader, and that's really how my trajectory came to be. Was a high school science teacher and went into leadership and was a school principal for a number of years. And although I went on to become a district head of innovation, I still really feel like that school leadership piece is so pivotal in the system. So I did that for a number of years and was the head of innovation for the Kamloops School District for a few years. But while I was doing that, I started to really get into the different ideas around professional learning and things like that. And I won't lie, as a principal, I might have had a bit of that shiny object syndrome where we were trying to implement all sorts of different things into our schools. And that was the time when blogging was cool and Twitter was new, and the 5 C's became 6 C's, became I don't know how many C's. And we were trying to do all those things. And so, there was a lot of learning that I needed to do as a leader. I found that I thought I was really smart when I was a young leader. And I realized as I kept going through that there's so much more for us to learn. So one of the things that I did during that time was we really invested in the concept of collaborative time, of PLCing, if you will. And so we did a lot of work, or I did a lot of work in that area, and we became this model PLC school. And I don't say that as a point of brag. Actually, what was really interesting was that as much as we had done all this work around creating time for our educators to work together to look at their practice and response to intervention type stuff, that actually the experience for students and the experience for adults wasn't actually changing all that much. And so that's really what drove me kind of into the writing world. Was I was kind of frustrated because we were doing all these things. That's what I felt like as a leader. I was doing all these things and running around, but I wasn't really seeing impact. And so that's where the observable impact model was born, was truly out of frustration with all the different things that leaders are expected to try and work through and implement in their schools. And yet I was really wondering, like, what was the impact that we were having? So at that point, I wrote a book called PLC 2.0. And in PLC 2.0, we introduced this concept of observable impact. And what observable impact really is it's the impact that we can see as a result of changes in practice that lead to improved outcomes, not only for students, but for the adults in the room, the educators. And so that kind of, for whatever reason, it seemed to catch fire with people, because people started asking, I wonder what is the impact of blank. And it wasn't just collaborative teams. It then turned into superintendents saying, what's the impact of our strategic plans? And principals saying, yeah, what about our school plans? Or boy, we're working on this literacy initiative. I wonder what the impact is. And so that really led me into this world, which is now I've left the school district a few years ago, and have been really lucky, Corey, to be able to travel to different places, to learn from different leaders, and to be able to talk a lot about this concept of observable impact. So that's kind of what's brought me here, and I'm really looking forward to sharing a little bit more about the leadership side of this, which is what I'll be talking about when I come to ulead.
Yeah, and maybe that's where we can go on next. What are you? I don't think you've probably got it all figured out quite yet, but what are you going to talk about at ulead during your keynote? I'd love to know what are the kind of the high points, or what do you really want to focus on?
Yeah, I think the piece that I've discovered in my travels is that leaders are working hard everywhere and harder, and it's sort of that the treadmill. We can feel it's getting perceptibly faster, and we're just trying to keep up with that. And what I've noticed is that in some ways, and this is really the opening line of the new book, which is Navigating Leadership Drift, is we're losing leaders right now. And statistically, we can find this too. A study was released in July of this year in the US that more people have left in the last couple of years the role of school leader than ever before. And interestingly, it's in that later demographic, and in fact in the sort of 50 to 58 range. And so this was interesting to me, but it also kind of confirmed what I was seeing, is that people, and whether we're actually losing them or there's that sort of almost like quiet quitting in some ways that's taking place, what I've been seeing out there is that our leaders are trying to do it all. And really in by doing that, they're starting to, and I did this too, we're starting to drift. And so that's really the concept that I'm hoping to introduce to folks, is navigating this concept of leadership drift, where in many ways we try and do everything for everyone all at the same time. And in the end, we take ourselves away, we drift into the ditch, so to speak, and take ourselves away from some of the work that we not only need to do, but we really want to do as well. So what I'm hoping to chat about with folks when I'm at ulead is first of all, that the drift is real, that we've all drifted before. I still drift to this day, it happens. But I also hope that we can start to think about what are some of the ways that we can lead from the middle and avoid the drift. And so what I'll do is I'll chat a little bit about three sort of major concepts around this idea of becoming the chief converter. And what I mean by that is that the leader, it really, when we're starting to navigate the drift, is able to be able to look at, first of all, what it is that we're currently doing in our system and translate into knowledge. And I think actually this is a really challenging one for us, because in some ways our leaders, we have to be able to not only look at our own practice, but the practices that are taking place in our buildings, assess it, and sometimes confront practice that's taking place in our buildings, including our own. And this is really challenging for us, but it's a real key conversion factor, is taking what we're currently doing and turning that into knowledge. But then the second conversion that I'll chat a little bit about is lowering the threshold for people to now take that knowledge and turn it into action. And the last one is really about this idea of, once we actually go through those actions, is connecting it to impact that we can actually see in our students, in our adults, and in ourselves. So hopefully I can give folks some tips and tricks about that. And I also, we always hear that if I can walk away from something with at least one thing I can use, so I want to make sure that everyone walks away with a protocol that they can use instantly when they go back, whether they're a superintendent, a principal, a middle level leader, an educator. It's something that they can use. So that's kind of the hope, is to really empathize with where our leaders are at. I hope we can poke a little bit of fun at ourselves and have a couple of laughs, but also walk away with some practical tools and ideas. And I'm lucky I get to do a breakout as well, which we'll be able to jump in and dive in a little bit deeper with them too.
Well, thanks so much. We are really looking forward to having you at ulead. I also love your focus on having some practical things that people can leave that session with. And then also, I love also that you're doing a breakout session, so that if people want to dig in a little deeper, they absolutely can. All right, we are super excited. ulead is coming up April 14th to 16th, and registrations are open. Thanks again, Cale, and we'll talk to you soon.
Can't wait. Thanks, Corey.